I hope you've got your shitting pants on, everybody. Oh my goodness. This character is the goodness. I think I've said this before, but out of the guest characters in Tekken 7, Negan probably has my personal favorite character design because he's very unique. You know, he borrows a lot from the show he's supposed to be from, but he's also kind of well balanced without being underpowered, and he's also kind of classically Tekken. You know, he doesn't have meter burn, he doesn't fly around or shoot lasers. He kind of stands up and plays the game with a lot of added flavor. You know, it helps that hitting people with this bat is like the most satisfying thing ever. So I kind of liked Negan for a while, even though I don't really play him. But looking at these changes, he's going to be better than ever this season. Before I go into the changes, I just want to say that I know a lot of my viewers really love Miguel. And if you do love Miguel, but maybe the changes for Season 4 didn't really do it for you, or you're interested in trying something new, definitely try out this character because I think he's very similar to Miguel. Intimidation has a lot of overlap with Savage. He even has the exact same down forward one strings now, pretty much. I also think, unfortunately, it saddens me to say that Negan is a strictly better character. But let's talk about these changes. First of all, 1-2, which is a nice, fast little punisher that you have. With Negan, when you attack with a 2 button, that's your bat hand. And a lot of the time you can hold that down, and that makes him put the bat on the shoulder and goes into your stance called Intimidation. So the change to this string is it went from -8 to -5 on block. So it's a lot better on block, and then from +3 to +6 on hit. So really nice change for this string. And it has some cool implications. For example, I've recorded my opponent here doing this 1-2, going into the stance and then spamming out 1+2, which is the armored launcher from Intimidation. And look what happens if I spam out my jabs after blocking the first 2 hits here. Even though I'm spamming out the fastest move I have, I'm actually going to get launched by that, and that means that even on block, they now have to respect Intimidation after this string, which is kind of crazy. So it's a cool little string, and I think this season, some Negan players might actually choose not to go for their more powerful 10-frame block punishers like this, just collect this slightly smaller one, and then decide to work with that +6 and Intimidation, because Intimidation is a really strong stance. It's gotten even better. We're going to talk a bit about that later. Next, 1-4-2 or just 4-2. You can skip the first hit and go directly to the 4-2 if you want to. These first 2 hits are natural, so it's another little punisher that you have. And the final hit, it's one of those delayable hits with a bit of counter hit on it, which is always nice. So it's a cool little string. It went from -5 to -4 on block, and +6 to +7 on hit, as you can see right there. So it's a nice change, not huge, but I think it's a pretty useful string. Next, we're going to talk about the stance a little bit, and this is where it gets interesting. So probably the most changed move is Intimidation 3. So this is like your fast mid from the stance. The fastest one you have is your 1-2, which is the hit confirmable mid from Intimidation that you like to do, you know, for example, after counter hit 2+3. But the thing about this fast mid is that this forces you to exit the stance, right? So I think what they want to do with Intimidation 3 now is give you a mid option from the stance that allows you to get nice advantage on hit, and then you can stay in the stance and mix from the stance again. Kind of like how Miguel likes to create Savage loops, right? So it went from 15 to 19 damage, so a nice big buff of 4 points for damage. It's going to impact 1 frame faster at 17. It's gone from -7 to -2 on block, and that's pretty big because it means that even if they block this, they still have to respect and worry about the stance, which I think is important. And then on hit and counter hit, it used to give +27, and that's gone down to +7 on normal hit and +13 on counter hit to allow it for this, you know, looping back into the stance. Even though you get +13 on counter hit, be aware that your fastest move in the stance is this one, and this is a 14 frame move, so you don't get anything guaranteed, but you are extremely scary and uninterruptible. So cool changes to Intimidation 3. Next, let's talk about 4. So the first thing with this, and it's kind of funny, apparently it has nerfed range, But look at this range. I don't think you should worry too much about this move having bad range now. I was kind of shocked. I wasn't aware that the range on this move was this crazy. So apparently this is nerfed range, but don't worry, it still reaches apparently from full screen. So probably not super significant. Man, this range is crazy. And the impact speed got super buffed. It went from 25 to 20. So it's 5 frames faster to impact, which is really cool. Now, I don't know how useful this move is. I think it's used mainly like as a combo filler because it does good damage. You know, it's good for that. But now that it's so much faster, maybe it's going to have other uses as well. One cool thing about it is that it has that massive range and it wall splats. So maybe you can do some cool stuff with that this season. Next, Intimidation down 2. This is the craziest one. This one really surprised me when I looked at it because, okay, we talked in some of the previous videos about how Gigas, Negan, Katarina, they used to have these mix-up stances that didn't work because Namco had this new idea that instead of giving these stances lows, we're going to give them throws to force people to duck, kind of like how King does. Problem being that when you can't mix those throws and they're reactable, a good opponent can always neutralize them. The reason it works for King is that he can mix his throws. So they ended up having to give all of those stances new lows. Giga's got a pretty bad one. Katarina's is slightly better. Negan got an extremely good low. It's down 2. And this went up from 20 damage to 26 this season, which is a lot. He basically just unsee below and then cuts your legs off. It's super powerful. It's got really good range. This is a fantastic mix-up low for this stance, and 26 damage is a lot of damage. So the opponent really needs to worry about whether or not they should be ducking when you're in Intimidation now. Very, very powerful stance. This low is crazy. So yeah, there you go. Transition in with your new cool transitions and then cut their legs off with this. And then if you're going to mix that, you know, you have the absolutely fantastic 2. And then you get guaranteed stuff on the floor. If they're walking to the side, you know, homing armored launchers. This stance is really good. Okay, next, down forward 1. Sorry, not yet. Forward 1 plus 2. Yeah, this is your online launcher that you used to kill Nina and Horong. It's kind of a meme. I mean, I'm joking, but I was playing some Negan online yesterday, pretty much for the first time since he came out, and I realized that you do actually need this move, at least online, because you're playing against these players who like to create these pressure vortex with a lot of moves, and if you can just get this on them once or twice, to really create breathing room. It forces them to slow down, to be worried about pressing too many buttons, and now you can play, you know, a more slow-paced, you know, methodical Tekken where you can worry about stuff like movement and whiff punishment and frame data, a space that you might be, you know, able to gain an advantage in against an opponent like that. So this is actually a necessary move, I think, at least online, and it has more tracking now. It's going to have a bit more tracking to the side. So if you dislike playing against this move online, that might annoy you, but I think the way to deal with it is you block it and block punish it, and that can definitely still happen. So if you are a Negan player, don't abuse it, don't get it blocked, but it is useful, and now it's going to be able to catch people who are being a little bit more agile, you know, and moving to the sides. So good change if you do like this character. Next, down forward 1. So this is your main mid poke. You know how most down forward ones are kind of a gut punch that come from underneath? Well, with Negan it's kind of weird because it comes from above and then swings across. So it has a kind of high hitbox, and they've improved the lower hitbox of this move, which is a great change because you want as much a hitbox as possible on your down forward one because you use it for so many things. You interrupt or catch people who are ducking or doing crush moves, you do it in combos, you open rounds with it, you end rounds with it. You want frame data and hitbox on your down forward one. So it's always a good thing. I haven't tried it out, like experimented with it, but it might be useful for catching, you know, people who are doing stances on the ground and stuff. For example, you know, Zafina's going to like Tarantula this season, so maybe it can be useful for that. I'm going to have to experiment a bit with that later, but nice little change for your main mid poke here. Next, down forward 3-1-2. This string is like a string that you see used as a wall combo ender for Negan, which is kind of useful. It's not like the best damage he has, but it is cool because it spikes the opponent, right? and then you can do follow-ups. So they've given this string the ability to transition into Intimidation stance by holding 2 on the final hit, which means that you can do this now and then go straight into Intimidation Oki, which I think is really cool. And like I said, the low does 26 damage now, so it is potentially really good, and you might actually want to go for this over your max damage options, like, you know, 1 jab into down 3+4, just because of the Oki applications that it gives you. And this is another one where I want to do a lot of testing later, where I'm going to be on the ground and trying to get up against these different options. But I think it's a cool change as well. Next, down back 4, which is a great staple low for this character that has, you know, cool counter hit properties. This has improved tracking and 1 point more of damage, gone up from 15 to 16. So not huge, but obviously good. It's a good move. Next, down back 1+2. This is your homing unblockable move. You can charge it with this character, and I've never really seen this used much. I think you can do like stuff like this, you know, and use it for like a high damage combo filler or spin move. But I mean, wouldn't you rather use up 4-2 right there? Or what's the other move that he has that works like that? Oh, up 2. There we go. You know what I mean? Because that allows you to keep comboing. So I don't really know how useful this move is, but they've improved the lower range, and that's probably good, because as you can tell, it hits really high. So yeah, I don't know if this is really super useful, but if your opponent's being super turtly, maybe try charging it up, gain +11 and then stance, then mix. But nice change, but I don't think it's a great move. Next, back 4. This is another reason that Negan is just strictly better Miguel in some ways, because they have these steel pedals, right, that you can use for hitting people on the ground, especially after you spike them at the wall. And Miguel's is like super punishable. Negan's is safe on block at -9, and it has counter at launch properties, so it's super good. So this has changed behavior on counter hit. I can't remember if this actually used to counter at launch in the previous season and they just changed the launch that it gives you. But if it wasn't a counter hit launcher before, then it's a really big buff to this move. So, I mean, use it for chasing people on the ground, even if they block it. We can set my opponent to all guard here, so you can see that it is only -9. And if you manage to, if they're on the ground, you hit them. If they swing, you counter hit launch them, and if they block it, you're safe. So it's just a fantastic Oki tool, really good move. I love having a good steel pedal on any character. So that's back 4. Next, up back 2. Decrease the distance between the character and the opponent when the move hits. So this is the cool evasive launcher, where he does a step back and then tries to launch you in the negative space, right? So this was kind of awkward to do the combo with, because you move back and then you have to move back in really quickly to get the combo. And that's pretty much still going to be the case. It looks like maybe they made it a little bit more forgiving, so it's a little bit easier to combo with. It doesn't look like a huge change to me. Next, okay, now we get to the new move. So this is up 4-2. So this is the extension, the second hit of your down forward 1-2 and your while standing 1-2. So you can just do this move by itself now. So it's 16 frames to impact, gives you +7 on hit. On block, it's -11, so it's punishable. And that's the reason I don't think this move is going to be very useful. First of all, it is a counter hit launcher, which is obviously really cool. And it does have Savage Transition, which is also really cool. So when you hit with it, you get +7 and then you can mix. The reason I don't think this is going to be huge is if you want to do like a long-range fast counter hit mid, down 2, I think really has you covered. It's 17, but it's safe on block. And it doesn't give you a full combo, but it gives you massive damage at 50. It's just really reliable and good. So I think that has some of your bases covered. And then if you want to do something else that is safe, up forward 4 has better range than this move. And is also safe on block, and has the counter at launch property. So I just think that, and say for example that your opponent whiffs something and you want to go into something that gives you the ability to intimidation mix, instead of doing that and going into this, you might as well just do the down forward 1-2 version of it and do the same thing. You get the exact same +7 on hit, So the only advantage of this I can see is if you want to whiff punish into something that gives you intimidation, but you're so far away that down forward one is going to whiff, but up forward two is going to hit. Maybe then, you know, it's applicable, but that's really a small window of potential usage. I think using safe moves is really important in this game, and up forward 4 and down 2 really have you covered for that. So I don't think the move is extremely useful, but that doesn't matter because I think the other changes to the character are really useful and really cool for him. So he didn't need a super flashy new move. If you have some sort of cool implication for this move that I've missed, however, definitely let me know because I'm super interested. Next, up forward 4, which is the move I just showed you a bit. It's a good counter hit launcher and you know, standard combo filler for him. Reduce the strength of the pushback, making the move easier to land. So there you go. And then finally, while rising or while standing 4 went from -6 to -5 on blocks. That's nice. That's what a lot of characters have actually. So that's what you would want, kind of standard. From +5 to +6 on hits. That's nice as well. Increase the move's forward momentum, so he's going to move in a bit further, so it's probably going to mean better range. I haven't compared it, but if it is better range, then that's great. And reduce the strength of the pushback, making the move easier to land. So some more utility for your main, you know, fast while standing Punisher here at 11, which is great. This is a good one. It's got decent range, not massive. 18 damage is kind of good. So those are the changes for Negan, a character who already was pretty strong, but just became a lot stronger. This thing is crazy. The stance is really great, and I think he's really cool. I'm actually going to be playing some Negan this season, I think, because, yeah, I think this is fun. I think it's balanced. I think it's got a lot of flavor. It's just an interesting and really fun and satisfying character to play, especially when you get these counter hits, which are so well done, in my opinion. So there you go. That's Negan in Season 4. I wonder who I'm going to do next. I think maybe Leo.